Hey! Let's talk about Yooka Laylee. So there are two words I've been hearing a lot in gaming. Spiritual successor. Mighty Number 9 is the spiritual successor to Mega Man. Planet Coaster is the spiritual successor for Roller Coaster Tycoon. Allison Road was the spiritual successor for that scary ass PT demo. And Yooka Laylee, the spiritual successor for Banjo Kazooie. I'm sure that most of you have at least heard of Yooka Laylee and how it blew through its targeted funds on Kickstarter. There is a reason why this game's getting a lot of hype. But I, for one, am wary about comparing games to older games because it sets the bar really high. And from what I've seen, Platonic Games is doing everything in their power to keep this game up to expectation. But let's talk about a few other things. First of all, the character designs. I like it. They are a chameleon and a bat, but if I had to pick something I don't like in it, it would be his big fucking nose. It's just so distracting to me. But other than that, it looks pretty good. They're both animals with abilities that you can see can make some interesting gameplay and or some puzzle solving. A bat being able to fly and sonar radar maybe, and the chameleon with its changing colors and whatnot. But they are more identifiable, but different enough so they stand out on their own. By looking at all the demos and gameplay, this game looks pretty gorgeous. It looks really good and massive. I'm really excited for this one. Everything's bright and colorful, vivid. It sets a nice tone for the game, in my opinion. It's bright and happy. It kind of reminds me of like how Mario's Sunshine was. And the soundtrack is supposedly good. David Wise from Donkey Kong Country and Grant Kirkhope from Banjo Kazooie are both working on the music for this one. So it should be a melodic masterpiece. Those games, Donkey Kong Country and Banjo Kazooie, had phenomenal music. It went really well with the game. It set the atmosphere right and everything. Especially the underwater music, I could just listen to that for hours. And the visuals, the polish looks good, the presentation, everything looks amazing to me. It's been described as an N64 game that is just being released recently. And I can totally play it up like that. Well, in my head. Then there's gameplay. From what I hear, it controls really well. Well, arguably gameplay is what matters most, right? Wrong. Because let me tell you, gameplay is what matters most. It's in a genre that most people believe are dead by now. 3D platforming, with elements of a collectathon. Whether you love it or you hate it, it's there. But as long as it doesn't feel like a chore to do, which in the original Banjos, it never felt like that. Yeah, so far we've only seen a few worlds, but I'm sure that Platonic Games will surprise us with a diversity of different levels. You can see the similarities between the two games. The way the characters talk, the transition between scenes, collectathon in an open world. It's all reminiscing of the early days. You'll hear this a lot. Oh, they brought my childhood back. Oh, they're bringing the game back. In all honesty, I don't think it will be at that level. It won't leave its mark. But I still think it's going to be a really good game. I'm really excited for this. I really want to see this. And I'm glad it's being made. This is a spiritual successor, but keep in mind this is its own entity for us to enjoy. It can't be a replacement for Banjo Kazooie Nuts and Bull. Sorry, that was weird. Threw up in my mouth a little bit. Anyway, it can't replace Banjo Kazooie Nuts and Bull. Nuts and Bull. Nuts and Bull. It's two characters. Instead of banjo and a kazoo, it's one whole instrument this time, a ukulele. The formula is nothing new, two protagonists, one carrying the other on his back, and a 3D action platformer. We've seen it a lot in games like Jak and Daxter, Ratchet and Clank. But after all this time, it's easy to see that anybody can say that there's not much innovation going on recently. But I do believe that this will take a new spin on it. It's going to be interesting to watch. Yooka the chameleon is described more as the sensible type, while Laylee the bat is described as a little bit crazy. I guess it's a good balance with Banjo Kazooie being kind of the same, with Banjo being the calm and collective type and Kazooie was the sassy bird. So it should make for some interesting dialogue, I suppose. Maybe even throw out a couple of references. There are some things I am worried about. While Banjo Kazooie had a nice pacing to it and diversity between the worlds, it was its limitation that kept it fresh. With Banjo Tooie, not that the game is worse, I think it's just as good, but the worlds became bigger and things became more monotone. Yeah, I'm looking at you, Grunty Industries. Without the restriction of limitations in this day and age of gaming, the worlds could be massive and they look massive. So it has me worrying how monotone the game will feel after so long spent in one world, especially with a collectathon like this. If you're supposed to collect so many feathers or pages in this game. So I just hope that they keep things fresh and interesting in these worlds. And also Banjo Kazooie had a hub world where you can travel to these different worlds. I hope it's the same here because then I'll have an excuse to go from an ice cold mountain to a desert. Another worry I have With games like these, they tend to not know to target old fans of the game or new players. Sometimes they fall in the ass crack of both. I don't think it'll be a problem in this game, but the worry is still there. Apparently there is a mode in the game, I guess that works kind of like a filter. It'll change how the game looks to resemble an N64 game. So it's like you're playing an old N64 game that was never released. I think that's a good idea, but the graphics are pretty beautiful, and I might as well keep those. But good on you. There are some interesting character designs as far as side characters go, apparently with their own fleshed out personalities and backstories. All the animations look good. Despite all of what I'm worried about, I do think this game will do well with old and new fans alike, kind of like how the Ratchet & Clank remake did. It seemed like most people liked it pretty good. I'm sure this game will be a good length, especially if you're a perfectionist and you want to collect everything that there is to collect. As of now, the release date is set for March 2017. Originally, it was supposed to be this year, and frankly, I don't mind waiting just a little bit longer so they can polish the game and make it better. The hype is real with this one. The Kickstarter broke all kinds of records. The world seems really happy and cartoony, with a distinct style. All we need later is a Banjo Kazooie Yooka Laylee crossover game. I know that probably won't ever happen, but if it did, I'd probably fucking jizz myself. A new trailer just dropped at Gamescom just a couple weeks ago, so a little bit more people are talking about it. And I just wanted to address my opinions, but I don't see the game messing up if it does, messing up that bad. I don't think it could mess up that bad. I think at its lowest, it'll be an okay game. I mean, it takes like a special talent to fuck it up that bad. So far as the plot, I mean, Banjo Kazooie's plot was pretty simple, right? His sister got kidnapped, and he's just sent to rescue her. I mean, some other shit happens, but that's towards the second one in the end. I assume it's not that bad, it's not that much different in this game. I mean, think about the plots for like Ratchet & Clank, Crash Bandicoot, Jak and Dexter. They all have an evil antagonist with some silly, whatever, blah 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 evil plotline shit. I don't expect any different in this game. Anyways, that's really about it. I wanted to talk about this game because I'm so excited for it. Let me know what you guys think about it in the comments, even if you haven't heard about it. Just the idea of another Banjo Kazooie-esque game. It's also been bringing up hopes of a Conker's Bad Fur Day 2 or a spiritual successor for a game like that, which I think everybody would be happy to hear about. I think this game will do well with replacing what was the atrocity of the third Banjo Kazooie. I'm sure it's safe to say that many of us were pretty disappointed. And it was hard to hear that one of our favorite characters are pretty much dead and gone. So I think a game like this is very welcomed. Alright, well, that's all I had to say. Later, babes.